Good morning, Ed. It's great to see you.
Good to see you, Lisa.
All right, I've just been arrested for a DUI. I'm scared. I'm nervous. What's the first thing I should do?
The first thing you should do is understand the consequences of what you're looking at, and then start looking at the defenses to try to make sure you've got a way to work around those issues with your license, jail time, community service work, and the things that are going to follow you the rest of your life with this thing.
What kinds of consequences am I looking at? I mean, we hear in the news some people are facing 10 years, 20 years behind bars. What could happen to me?
In Tennessee, if you're a first offender, you're looking at a minimum of 48 hours in jail. There's trash pickup. You lose your license for a year, plus a fine and alcohol safety school. So you're looking at a lot of consequences. The loss of license alone is going to put a big damper on a lot of people's lives. And that license, you can get it restricted to drive to work and church, but that's it. So, and that's a first. If you have multiples, then obviously it gets a lot worse.
How soon after my arrest should I be contacting an attorney?
The sooner you do that, the better, because there's going to be witnesses that we may want to talk to. There's going to be a scene that we want to look at, and hopefully it doesn't change. And the sooner we start working on your case, the better you'll feel, and we can start putting the wheels in motion and start talking to the officers.
How much of a difference can you as an attorney make for me?
Well, you need to make sure that all of the rights that you have are looked after, and also any possible defenses. Did you have a legal reason to pull you over? The field sobriety testing have a lot of errors, and if there's any chemical testing done, there's always mistakes made with blood and or breath. So there's things to always explore and make sure that you're protected and that your rights are protected to try to get this DUI behind you.
So what can you as an attorney look for in the field sobriety test to challenge it?
Well, the first thing is look at the officer's training. Is he actually trained through the national standards, and did he follow the protocol to do that? There's a lot of errors with these tests because the cops just kind of make them up as they go. And if they do them correctly, there's still an error rate. For example, the walk and turn test is only 68% reliable. So out of 100 people that get arrested, 38% of them, or 38 out of 100, are really actually innocent based on that one test alone. And the one-leg stands even less. So
some of us couldn't stand on one leg for very long, even if we're sober.
Right. And, and you think, well, the officers got trained, and they didn't do it perfectly the first time they did it. They had to practice to get this, and most people don't stand around on one leg all the time or walk heel touching toe, so it's an abnormal thing. They don't get to practice. And those are things that need to be brought out both in the cross-examination of the cop and to instruct a jury if you get that far.
If I'm trying to choose a DUI attorney, what should I be looking for?
I think the first thing you should look for is somebody that is been trained on all field sobriety testing and knows about the breath testing and has gotten some blood courses. Probably somebody that speaks to organizations, keeps up on their CLE, and just is actively involved in that. And it's not necessarily a specialty, but if you're going to go have a DUI charge, you probably want to have somebody that does mostly DUIs and not somebody that does real estate law or your accounting attorney or something like that, because it is a specialty.
And have you had that kind of training?
Yes, I've been doing DUI practice primarily for the last 10 years. I do nothing but criminal defense. In my prior life, I was a police officer for 16 years and a prosecutor in charge of the DUI division. So
you've really seen it from all sides.
As I tell people, I've arrested them, I've prosecuted them, and now I defend them. So it's a little bit of everything.
And Ed, what motivated you to become a criminal defense attorney and to represent people in DUI cases?
I saw the change of how people would go into DUI court or DUI cases and just plead guilty and not explore the science that they can use, the legal stuff, and just using the tools to make a bad situation better. Some people just walked in and pled guilty, or some people didn't look at all the avenues they had. Even a prosecutor, we had cases that were weak and nobody fought for them, and these people got convicted.
Everyone's looking to save money these days with the economy the way it is. Why shouldn't I just plead guilty to a DUI?
Well, the money that you pay to a lawyer is probably going to be very high, but the consequences down the road are going to be a lot higher. With your insurance alone, the fine and court costs, the alcohol safety school, all of those things are going to add up. And right now the average they're saying is about $10,000 to $15,000 over your lifetime with a DUI conviction.
From the insurance and all those additional costs?
Yes, everything piled on, you're looking at around $10,000, $15,000 Plus, you always have that stigma following you for the rest of your life, because in Tennessee, for example, DUI stays with you forever, can never be taken off of your record. So
there's no chance of getting it expunged later on?
not in the state of Tennessee. And most states don't have an expungement, some do, but Tennessee, if you get it on your record, it's there to follow you forever.
Well, Ed, I have to be honest with you. If I had a DUI arrest, I think I would be scared. I would be embarrassed. I might not even want my friends and family to know about it. How would you help me through the process?
Well, I think the first thing, once you find a lawyer that you're comfortable with, is you can try to get back to your daily business and life and let the lawyer do the worrying for you. And, it's never going to be erased from your mind, but at least let us do most of the hard work and following the case through. We'll try to minimize the court appearances so you don't miss work. You will have some court appearances to make, but we'll cut them down and make it as quick and as painless as we possibly can.
What if I don't want to go to trial?
That's always the client's choice. Sometimes you have to get a case ready for trial, let the DA know that you're ready to go, and sometimes the DA doesn't actually look at a case until they think they may have to try it in front of a jury. So forcing their hand sometimes will get them to say, oh yeah, I better make some other alternative rather than a DUI charge.
As a DUI attorney who works in that jurisdiction on a daily basis, do you get to know the district attorneys and the prosecutors?
We have a good relationship with the prosecutors and most of the officers. We have a DUI squad, and we go out socially with them sometimes. All the prosecutors, we work hand in hand, so they know us, we know them, and I think if you built that trust back and forth, they know when you come in with an issue to say, you've got a bad case, Miss District Attorney, they're going to be a little more accepting of that if they know somebody they trust they've dealt with before.
Yeah, those relationships that you've built must really be a plus when you're trying to help your client.
Right, and that way you get some information ahead of time, and you're also able to deal with just the running of the court system, knowing the judges, the prosecutors, and the police officers. Like if you came into me today and say you got arrested, then I can call the officer that arrested you tomorrow and start finding out about your case before we get to court.
Have the penalties gotten stricter for drunk drivers?
Tennessee, we went from no jail time to 24 hours. Now we're at 48 hours. They're talking about adding interlock on all DUI convictions. They're looking at criminalizing the implied consent part of it. So every legislative session, something new comes out about trying to make them a little stricter.
Can you tell us about ignition interlocks? Those are the breathalyzers that people are required to put on their cars, right?
That's correct. In Tennessee, it's up to the judge if you have to have one or not. Most first offenders no. All multiple offenders, yes. But it's a mechanism designed, locked into the car. You blow into it to make sure you have no alcohol on your breath. And it also, as you're driving down the road, periodically you will still have to blow into it to keep your car running.
And you said implied something has been criminalized. Can you explain that?
The implied consent law. That's where if you were asked to take a chemical test and you refused, some states have already criminalized it. Tennessee has not. They're looking at it. But if you refuse to take the chemical test, you can and most likely will lose your license for a year. Even if you're acquitted or found not guilty of the DUI, the judge can still take your driver's license just for not taking the test.
What's your best advice to me if I'm driving down the road and a police officer pulls me over and says, ma'am, have you been drinking?
Say, am I under arrest? If he says no, say, can I go? If he says no, say, no disrespect, officer, but I'd like to talk to my lawyer.
So just don't answer the question.
Don't answer the questions, and you don't have to take field sobriety test. Most people think you have to do the field sobriety test. There's absolutely no penalty for not doing those. You can just say, I don't want to do them. That takes part of the evidence away, so that obviously the officer does not have that. They will probably arrest you anyway, but if he smelled alcohol and you were driving, you're probably already going to jail. If you decide not to take a chemical test, there are civil repercussions for that, but it also doesn't help give them that evidence to put you over the limit.
Last question, Ed. I've been arrested for DUI. I'm on your website. I'm looking at you as a possible attorney to represent me. Why should I give you a call?
Just find out what your possibilities are, what your rights are, what your defenses are, and you should check and find a good fit, somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you feel will take care of your case, take care of you, and get you through it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.